You've heard it all before. Your mate is on top form, flying they say. Then next week, they're going slower than a broken down bus. Form has suddenly disappeared apparently.
So that begs the question, is form physical or mental? On that note, I think we should go and investigate.
Let's do it. Now hold up, because first, GCN is about to get all deep and philosophical.
Yeah, guess, here goes.
We are going back to ancient Greece to see what Plato and his mates have to say on the subject.
But mate, did we have to get dressed up like this to get all philosophical?
Yes, Hank. Yes, we certainly did. Ancient Greek philosopher Plato reckoned that the mind and body were two totally separate things, giving rise to the philosophical theory of mind-body dualism. Ever heard of the phrase, "I think, therefore I am"?
No.
Well, that was said by a bloke called René Descartes.
But he wasn't from Greece, he was French, and it was back in the 17th century.
Yeah, well, anyway, Descartes reckoned that we could question the reality of everything around us.
What, meaning that everything we know isn't real?
Yes, I mean, this could all be one big dream, couldn't it? But the thing is, Descartes reckoned that because we were thinking, we couldn't doubt the actual existence of ourselves.
What? That means everything around us is a whole load of gobbledygook. But if we think it, if we believe it, that way we know it's real.
Interesting, eh? So, according to Descartes, form is all mental. It's 100% up in your mind, 100% mental. And, well, the mind and body are two totally separate things.
To be honest, I think they're on way too many caffeine gels. So on that note, I reckon we should go and do some science and get out of these.
No more philosophy.
No. Come on.
Oh, please, Hank.
No.
But
Now, the placebo effect is a really interesting point to our argument. It's basically believing that what you are doing creates a positive outcome.
For instance, you're told that taking a shot of beetroot juice before a race will improve your performance. You take the shot of beetroot juice and then afterwards you claim you are flying during the race to all your teammates.
So on that note, mate, I think we should give it a go.
I think we should try it out.
Ready? Chin chin.
Cheers, mate. I quite like it, actually. It's nice.
French cyclist Richard Virenque became the unknowing subject of one rather DIY placebo experiment. Virenque's Belgium soigneur, Willy Vort, told Virenque he had given him an injection of amphetamine before the start of a TT in the '97 Tour. In fact, it only contained a small amount of glucose. Virenque went on to have the TT of his life, only being beaten by Jan Ullrich, and claimed after the TT that he felt incredible after whatever Vort had given him. Virenque was flying, wasn't he?
Looks like Virenque's form was all in his head anyway.
Yeah.
Best not try that one at home though.
No.
Don't think it's a good idea. Anyway, let's get more scientific though, shall we? A study by Canterbury Christchurch University, which measured the effects of placebo on cycling performance, found that riders who believed they'd ingested caffeine before a 10-kilometre TT improved their times by 3.1%.
3.1%?
Yeah, when really all they'd ingested was an innocent sugar pill.
Wow. So that's got me thinking then, is form all in our head?
Well, I guess if you can think yourself 3.1% faster, then maybe it is.
the nocebo effect is the opposite of the placebo. Instead of a gain in form, you actually lose form. Sound familiar? Ever had a bad night's sleep, a long travel day, or recovered from illness? Then turned up for your first bike ride and just thought, I'm going to ride terribly today. You've had a terrible day as a result, you've ridden terribly, things haven't gone well, and you just haven't had a positive outlook on anything. Well, this is the nocebo effect working its black magic. Hand up, I've been there myself. Anyone else out there? I'm guessing yes. I think us cyclists can sometimes be the worst for talking ourselves out of a good day and thinking ourselves into bad form.
I mean, think about equipment. Ever had to borrow an old set of wheels and you just thought yourself into poor form?
I sometimes wonder if power meters can do this. We see rubbish numbers on the screen and as a result we think ourselves into a bad day. For example, General Manager Lucas Skinto of the Zabu KTM team recently actually banned power meters from his team during races. He was fed up of riders complaining they're on a below par day after seeing not the best numbers on their power meter head unit.
So I guess, well, Luke has gone old school, hasn't he? I mean, he's thrown us into the bait. Do the power meters hinder or help our performance?
In recent years, functional threshold power, or FTP, has been the dominant method of measuring a cyclist's capabilities on the bike, with many coaches and training workout platforms using FTP to prescribe training workouts.
Yeah, now let's get away from all these complicated equations and put it really basically. FTP is the power you can sustain for 60 minutes if you're doing a full gas effort, max effort.
Yeah, and our training zones are defined by our FTP, with many coaches using it to prescribe what intensity to ride at, and also just simply explaining what we can actually achieve physically on the bike.
Yeah, now I think it's important that we have a look at these numbers in table form. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go through it. Active recovery, endurance, tempo, threshold, VO2 max, anaerobic capacity, and finally the big one, neuromuscular power.
So I guess all our training zones and the power we can achieve in each zone is directly linked to, you guessed it, FTP, or a percentage of that number.
Yeah, I think to look at it in this way, it's fair to say that form is purely physical. If you can achieve X amount of watts for 60 minutes, then you can achieve Y amount of watts for 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess you're only as good on any given day as your FTP. Meaning, well, is form physical then?
Maybe this is where the robotic criticism of modern day riders and Ineos or Sky comes in. People say that we are looking at our watts too much and we're just too sort of robotic in our approach to cycling. But modern day cycling has just got so scientific with the numbers that maybe we're just getting too good at analysing our fitness and being in the correct form. We've kind of lost that guesswork and mental aspect of cycling. It's decreased a bit.
Yeah, so I guess I was thinking, was the old school cyclist a more mentally strong cyclist than a modern day pro?
It's an interesting point. Maybe we're relying on what we can achieve physically to define our form too much.
Yeah, I guess if we think about Kenyan runners, okay, they've dominated the long distance running scene. And the interesting feature of their training is that from beginner to professional, they train to exhaustion.
Yeah, instead of just completing a prescribed intensity for their training or a certain time frame during the interval, they simply try to stay with the front group and run until they are dropped.
Yeah, they rely on the mental dimension, don't they? That how hard you can push yourself mentally.
Yeah, and I think it's a familiar point in cycling when we really push ourselves hard and we get to that point where we stop the effort, we just can't take any more, we're dropped, we're done, and we're finished, it's over. And I think this strikes me as a very mental point. It's quite like sort of, it's just all in your mind when you just can't go on and you just thought, oh no, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. It's how mentally far you can push yourself.
Yeah.
Now, whether physical or mental, there is no denying that when pushing yourself to the absolute limits, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, pushing through this pain, in my view, is a very mental act. I mean, think about it. Your physical strength can only get you to a certain point. And from then on, it's your mental strength that's gonna keep you going.
Yes, and there are some rather strange mental techniques to push on through this pain barrier. I myself used to use a mantra of orange, pineapple, pear, banana every time the going got tough.
You think about fruit?
Well, it's just the mantra, it's just the words you repeat in your head. I actually first used it in the Vuelta in 2018 on the advice of my then teammate Larry Warbass.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was struggling in the race a little bit and it was rather painful, and Larry said to me, he said, if you're suffering, just repeat a mantra in your head and it will distract you from the pain. So I think there was one stage the going was really tough and I just thought, I'm gonna have to use Larry's advice and just go for the mantra. I was in the gutter suffering and I just went orange, pineapple, pear, banana, orange, pineapple, pear, banana. And it worked, you know, it worked.
I mean, I like it. I like the use of fruit. Mine personally was pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever. Pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever. Pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever. Pain. It worked.
God, if I'm totally honest, I don't think we've got the knowledge. We've got the experience, but we need some scientific facts and evidence. Do you not think?
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that actually, Hank, because we've roped in a true professional on the matter. chartered sports psychologist, no less, with a master's degree in sports and exercise psychology. Firstly, Josie, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. And I guess we'll start off by asking, is form mental or physical?
As a sports psychologist, I'm always biased on the importance of kind of the mind over body. But actually, I think the really interesting element of this is the mind and body working together. And often there's a lot of trickery involved. So we can feel like we're doing really well because we've seen numbers. Or we can be kind of training naked, as in we don't have watches or GPS or anything on us, feel like we've had an amazing day and get back and actually we haven't been doing so well at all. So it's a really difficult one because our mind can easily trick us. There was some brilliant research that's done in weightlifting where the weightlifters were told they were actually lifting higher weights than they were. And so they were able to carry on lifting actually much higher weights than they really could or usually could. And then as soon as they found out they'd been lied to, they could no longer lift those really heavy weights. So our mind is incredibly powerful at kind of tricking us sometimes that we might be in form. But that's actually really good to know, because if we then learn some mental tricks, we can make ourselves feel like we can perform much better on the bike, and then we do perform much better.
When you go from sort of, you're on a good day, you've just gone out on your local ride or something, you've said, oh, I'm on amazing form, like I'm really feeling great today. And you kind of get the buzz of the good form. And then the next day you go out and for some reason, you just get, I don't know what it is, but you sort of start to think, oh, I'm just not on the same day today, I'm on bad form. How can that change happen so quickly?
So sports psychologists have done lots and lots of research into all the stresses and all the different pressures we have on us when we're trying to do our sport. I have heard numbers starting from about 126 different types of stresses up into the many, many hundreds. So there are all these different elements. And however good we are at our data analysis or tracking everything in a training diary, we are never going to be able to track all of those different elements that are having an impact on us. So we can make a good stab at it and we can start to try and learn what gives us a good day, but we're never always going to be able to spot it. And then we have physical things thrown into the mix. So actually those days where you've really struggled and you get back and you find out your tyre was going down or your brakes were slightly stuck on. So it was actually much harder to train. Or you've got a cold coming on that appears in 3 days and suddenly like, that's why I've been feeling rubbish on the bike. So there are so many different variables that influence how we perform. It's not surprising that we're going to have lots of different stuff going on different days. Form, or sometimes we might even call it flow, will come when you truly are enjoying what you're doing and when you love doing. And if you are only racing for somebody else, so you're racing for a pay packet, or you're racing for the prestige, or you're racing for somebody else that you don't necessarily care about, it's much, much harder to find that form and to find that flow. When you're racing because you just love being on your bike and you love the feeling of it and you love that exhaustion in your legs after 6 hours, then it's much easier to find form and much easier to find flow. And that's why we spend a lot of time with people, even if they are in a team and they're having to race for another reason, helping them find their own reason to do it and reconnecting with why they may have started cycling in the first place.
Was there anything you could advise to kind of get yourself into that mental mindset before a race, to kind of just focus on those processes? Is there anything you'd advise? I personally actually used to listen to music. I used to just put my headphones in on the bus and I'd have a playlist, and quite often it would be the same playlist throughout a race, and it would just get me, once I listened to certain songs, it would just put me in the place I needed to be.
It's phenomenal. And it's something I do with every athlete I work with, of creating a performance playlist, getting them great big headphones so everybody leaves them alone. We pick about 10 tracks that either amp them up to get them into that optimal level of performance or actually tone them down. So some people will be just too anxious, too nervous before a race, and listening to a load of really amped up house music is not going to help them in any way, shape or form. It's just going to get them way over their levels of optimal functioning, we call it. So for them, we'll be listening to something that's much more chilled out, and we'll be using music to kind of calm them down.
What sort of advice would you give to those people who are maybe feeling that little bit on the edge of talking themselves out of a hard ride at the weekend with their friends? If they're kind of talking themselves out of it, like I used to do as well sometimes.
So some of that's being quite rational. Am I just in the wrong group? Like, am I in a bad place? Yeah. Am I got a cold coming, and actually me going to hammer myself for 4 hours is going to be really bad for me? Yeah, I do actually need to be realistic and maybe drop down and do my own ride. But if you know you're liable to making excuses, then actually having some kind of mantra as to why you need to work and how much better you'll feel at the end of it is really good. So you can sometimes make it about your goal, and that'll be kind of that coffee at the end of this ride will feel phenomenal, and I will feel really proud of myself for hanging on. So if you've got a real purpose for doing that ride and a big picture of what you're aiming towards, that can work really well. When you find the right mantra, it is really powerful. It can really, in running, they found it would take the equivalent of about 10 minutes off your marathon time.
Really? So, wow.
So just by talking to yourself, not in that negative, you're rubbish, you're going to fall apart, you can't do this way, but in a look at all your strengths you've got, this is why you're doing it, this is why it matters to you. It can make a huge difference to your time. So it's well worth trying to find something that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, I always did used to look forward to my fruit salad.
Salad, there you go. Maybe it works.
Well, Dr. Josie, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and sharing your knowledge with us. It's been really enlightening, actually, and definitely adds to the debate. I'm starting to think that form is a lot more mental than I thought it was. So
then I've been persuasive enough.
Yeah, I think I'm swinging towards mental. Yeah. But no, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
What do you guys think? Is form physical or is it mental? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, then give it a big like.
So what was it again, Larry? I thought it was oranges, apples, pears, lemons. What? Can you remember?
It was easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Easy peasy.
Orange, pineapple, lemon, pear. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy? No, it was oranges, apples, pears, bananas.